Okay, here we go. Last Starlink 17-44, the last private mission for SpaceX. And I didn't go live on YouTube. All right, whatever. We're out of time. Doesn't matter. Let's go. This is the last private mission for SpaceX before the company goes public, and figure watch this launch for continuity's sake. So the booster flying today is 1071 on its 34th flight. Booster's taken off from Slick 4E at Vandenberg. This is out in California. So
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
A little early out there. It's going to land on, of course, SpaceX's ASDS, the Autonomous Spaceport Drone Ship. Of course, I still love you. That was me. Sorry. I don't know why that does that every time, but whatever. Oh, man, them stars be linking. They do be linking, though, Ian. They do be linking. 10,000 strong Lincoln, dude. That's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. All right, so this is the 650th Falcon 9 mission. It's the 66+1 launch of Falcon mission for 2026. SpaceX's 679th mission and the 69th mission for SpaceX of 2026. We're inside of 2 minutes here. Should be going up to ground gas closeout. Transporter erector's already been retracted. Will you be doing the H3 launch tonight?
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
I would like to, yes. We'll see. You will have Windows noises and you'll like it. That's right. Okay. Ground gas closeout. The transporter erector is now evacuating all the
ground gas closeout.
The propellants. It's evacuating the liquid oxygen from the transporter erector because you want fuel in the rocket and not in the launch pad when you go to launch. You know, we want the rocket to catch on fire down the bottom, not the launch pad to catch on fire everywhere. So, in another 8 seconds here, we should see auto sequence. Well, not auto sequencer, startup. Auto sequencer is the space shuttle. Whatever. It's fine. It's fine.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There it is. There's your auto startup sequence start thing. Why does my brain still think the shuttle is flying? That stopped flying 15 years ago. I don't know. We don't know. We don't want to know. We're not going to unpack that right now. You know why we're not going to unpack that? Because we should get a go for LD for launch here in another 10 seconds, and then we're going to watch this launch.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Here we go. Yeah, clear day at Vandy. Marine layer seems to be out to sea.
T-minus 10.
Here we go.
8, 7.
That hushing you hear is the
6,
pad deluge system.
5,
Sound suppressor
4,
should be on.
3.
There it is.
2.
Ignition.
1. Ignition. And liftoff. Go SpaceX. Go
What
Starlink.
a beautiful launch site. Starlink 17-44. Oh, pad caught on fire a little bit. 17-44, the last private mission for SpaceX takes to the skies. Should get a call for power and telemetry here in the next 10 seconds.
Power and telemetry nominal.
There it is.
Vehicle is supersonic. Max Q.
I'm back chill.
Second stage shield down has started. I am experiencing connection problems, but for VOD continuity, I will keep commentating on this launch. Second stage shield down is thermally conditioning the Merlin vacuum engine. See, there's the marine layer. It's out to sea today. Two minutes into flight, everything looking good here. Falcon 9 first stage should enter a throttle ramp down here. You should see the accelerometer over there on the right-hand side. It should start to go down here in preparation for main engine cutoff. There's the staging alignment right there.
Miko.
There's main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
Second stage. Clean set. Upper stage ignition.
I'm back startup.
Seems to be a beautiful morning out in Southern California. Got a good ignition on the Merlin vacuum engine. Booster 1073 will now deploy, or 1071 will deploy its grid fins and do a slight heading alignment maneuver for entry interface and
separation
the
confirmed.
entry burn for landing on the drone ship. Of course, I still love you. Swim conditions have improved. Still checking. Over. Yes. Fairing separation is confirmed. Question. So the fairings are the aerodynamic shells that are up at the top of the vehicle. They're basically an aero shell for the 24 Starlink payloads that are on board. This is carrying 24 Starlink V2 minis to a sun synchronous orbit. Copy. Bubble wrap nominal. Okay, 3 minutes, 50 seconds into the flight. Second stage traveling at 9,400 kilometers an hour, 122 kilometers in altitude. First stage coasting at 7,220 kilometers an hour, 114 kilometers up. First stage has not reached apogee at this time, meaning it's the high point in its arc. It is still going up even after staging. But as soon as your speed, your velocity indicator over there starts to go up instead of down, your altitude should start going down. If that's going up, this usually is going down. And if this is going down, that's usually going up. Orbital mechanics and stuff. All right, see? Look, right there. 115 kilometer was the apogee. Now it's at 114, 113 going down, and that's now accelerating. Earth's pulling it back in. It's pulling it in. Hey, Idiom, what's up? Okay, first stage is now aligned here for my favorite part. The always efficient flamethrower, my favorite. The supersonic retro propulsion. Sorry. Flat, handy, adjustable, good for riders and lefties. No, sorry. So the entry burn here is when Falcon 9's going to fire the first stage engines as it's going basically at entry interface here, when it starts to get back down to the lower parts of the atmosphere. The reason why it's doing that is it's slowing itself down to minimize re-entry heating. Now, what's also going on here, and this is why this is cool, is that they're using the exhaust gases of the vehicle because it's flying business end first. So you're flying engines first, engines into the wind. And when they fire the engines, the exhaust gases from the rocket envelops the rocket in a cool column of gas. It essentially does the same function as an ablative heat shield, like on an Orion capsule or a Dragon capsule. You see how the flames, for a second there, they were heat shield shaped. They're not heat shield shaped anymore because they went from one engine to 3 engines. And now they should go back down to 1 here in a second, and the flames should change shape again. But because they have 3 engines firing, the E1, the E5, and the E9 engine, you have like a a hot dog shaped heat
Stage
shield.
1 entry burn
But
shutdown.
that is protecting the Falcon 9 first stage. They actually use the rocket engines as the rocket engine exhaust as the heat shield. Smart. The rocket engines are already there. You might as well use them. Now you can see the nitrogen cold gas thrusters there, orienting the stage in preparation for the atmospheric phase of its flight and return. As this thing starts to get further down into the atmosphere, you should really start to see those grid fins start doing work. These things are hypersonic control surfaces there. They're designed to be able to steer the vehicle at extremely high speeds. But you can also tell that it's decelerating because it's encountering more atmospheric pressure. It's running into more air as it gets lower into the atmosphere. So it is slowing down by itself just from the atmospheric drag. You can see those aerodynamic perturbations form of vibrations. The grid fins are really going to start moving around here. Okay, 7 minutes 36 seconds. Second stage is 21,000 kilometers at 146, or 21,000 kilometers an hour at 145. First stage should be getting the call for subsonic here. 5 kilometers off the deck. Grid fins really doing some work there.
Stage
Well,
1 landing burn.
landing burn has started. Little turbulent out there on the Pacific. We got low clouds here. Falcon 9 grid fins doing work. First stage the E9 engine in the center is being used to decelerate the vehicle. Punching through the clouds. Drone ship should be there.
Landing leg deploy.
Really thick clouds today. There's the drone ship right at the last second. Landing legs have deployed, grid fins locked. You're on thrust vector control as Falcon 9 comes in for a landing and sticks it dead center.
Stage 1
1071
landing burn.
completing its 34th flight. 34 flights on that. And that's not even the one they've used the most. 1067 is the one they use the most. They've used it 35 times. Okay.
I'm back shut down.
Last bit here is the call for nominal orbit insertion. There's second stage engine cutoff, 28,568 at 137. Those numbers seem good.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Like clockwork, baby. Like clockwork. Engine vent down, purge out the engine. Get all the propellants out of it. You want to really dry the thing out before, after you shut it down. It's a well-oiled machine. What do you think, EJ? It's an amazing machine. What do you think? 40 weight? 50 weight? 40 sounds nice. Sorry, car references. Don't worry about it. How much is 34 flights in human years? Well, Kahe, it's you take 34 and you take 90 over your mom, and that's how many human years it is. Yep, technical. It's a technical equation. What? Stop looking at me like that. I could feel the judgment through the damn camera. I'll be honest. I've woken up to it launching, taking a quick nap, and woken up to it coming back as well. I love having rockets as an alarm clock. Kino, I'm not gonna lie to you. Little bit on the jelly side. I see rockets up here in New England nowadays, but it's only really when Falcon's going to the ISS. It's maybe a Starlink mission here and there. I mean, we do catch some rockets from time to time, but yeah, let's just say I could live on the Space Coast, and we'll leave it at that. Hey, Vind, 23-month resub. Stop looking at me, Swan. What is that silver foil used for? Thermal protection. Cannon. It's a thermal protection system. What it's really doing is trying to insulate the turbine machinery from sunlight. The reason why is the turbine machinery on the second stage engine on the Merlin vacuum, it needs to stay cold during ignition. So if you think about like an engine with a nominal operating temperature, like say, take your car for instance, right? Your car, if you drive a car with an internal combustion engine, right? Ideally, this nobody does this, but ideally you want to sit there and let the car warm up and get the engine up to the right temperature for the correct performance. Trying to rev out a cold engine could create lubrication problems if it's not at the right operating temperature. You got to make sure the whole engine warms up, and you got to get enough heat soaked into the engine to get the tolerances correct for performance and for so you don't throw a rod out the side of the block. With rockets, it's the same way, but the turbine machinery, so the fuel pumps, need to be extremely cold. The reason why it needs to be extremely cold is because Falcon 9's using semi-cryogenic propellants. So you have Falcon 9 uses RP1, which is, for all intents and purposes, basically jet fuel. It's jet fuel, like same kind of stuff that you'd put in like a 737 or an A320. It's very similar to that. It's a little bit more refined, but let's just call it the brother of jet fuel. It's rocket grade kerosene, if anybody really wants to know. So rocket grade kerosene is, you could store that at room temperature. That's no big deal. That's not a problem for the fuel pumps to move around. It's the liquid oxygen that's the problem. So Falcon 9, like I said, is semi-cryogenic. So you have RP1, which room temperature. I mean, you'd want to chill it down a little bit ideally, but you don't want to chill it too down. You don't want to get fuel too cold, because then it turns to jello. Anybody that has a diesel motor knows exactly what I'm talking about. If you live where it's cold, yeah, it'll turn to jello. It'll gum up the fuel system pretty bad when it gets cold if you're not careful. But that's why block heaters exist, bud. So the liquid oxygen, on the other hand, is extremely cold. It's minus 193 Celsius, which is what, 293 F or something? Minus 293 F. It's really freaking cold. The tolerances have to be right inside of the LOX impeller on the Merlin engine. They have to be perfect. And that involves essentially freezing the impeller. Now, think about that for a second. You have a piece of metal that you're going to freeze, and then you're going to make it work. It needs to be cold. If it's not cold and you spray LOX into a warm fuel impeller, couple of bad things could happen there. So you could get cavitation on your impeller turbine, which means explosion. You could get propellant evaporating in your fuel line. You could get oxidizer evaporating in the impeller, which usually leads to an explosion. You could get the improper mixture feed rates to your engine on your injector plate, which usually leads to an explosion. You can get, worst case scenario, you can get flow separation in the nozzle because of improper chamber pressure, which usually leads to an explosion. Do you see a pattern emerging here? Yeah, you got to chill that engine down. And on the first stage engines, they're inside of the engine section, no problem. There's a thermal protection system there because it needs to do that supersonic retropropulsion thing that I was telling you about. Second stage engine it's not the same, right? The second stage engine is essentially some fuel tanks with an engine attached to the back, right? And because of this, the turbine machinery is kind of bare bones, and you have to insulate it, or else you'll never get the impeller down to minus 193 C. You'll never get it to the right temperature if it's sitting in the sun up there, right? So the silver stuff is insulated blankets. It's called multi-layer insulation, or MLI. It's a thermal blanket, space blanket. It's just providing you a thermal layer to make sure that the turbine machinery gets to the right temperature, because if it doesn't get to the right temperature, the engine usually explodes. Just like I said, with a car, if the engine's cold and you start revving it to the moon, you'll shoot a rod out the side, and then you'll be like, oh no, it's broken. With a rocket engine, if you do the equivalent of shooting a rod out the side, there's no connecting rod in a rocket, but if you have improper start conditions for a rocket engine, it blows up. Yeah, like 90% of the time, it'll explode. It'll just, that's it. Just deleted. We don't want that happening to the rocket, so they insulate it. Fun fact, SpaceX back in the day didn't have the budget to afford multi-layer insulation, so they went down to Home Depot. This was in the Falcon 1 days. They went down to Home Depot and wrapped the second stage engine in trash bags. Not even kidding. This is well documented. Yeah. That's a far cry from what they do now. Considering Star Factory, consider the perspective there. We don't have the money for insulative protection on our second stage engine. Go get some trash bags. Go get some hefty bags. That'll work. We should make that a YouTube short. Sure. And if you do see this on a YouTube short, well, hey, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. It's short, so that part won't make the cut. No, you gotta add that part. I played it out. And to play us out, I don't know what that means, to play us out. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Frick it. Frickin' thing sucks. Please leave a comment on this video because it really helps me in the algorithm. That's still funny, man. I laugh every time I see that. Thanks. Had a rod go out the side of a gremlin on our way to the airport in Illinois. It wasn't my car, belonged to a fellow airman. How did you break a gremlin engine? That's an AMC 242. How the hell did you break one of those? The guy must have not changed the oil at all, like ever. You forgot the like, comment, and subscribe. Good old Bill meltdown. It's still funny, Binary. It's still funny. It's still good, man. Hey, Chip, what's going on? How many shares are you buying tomorrow? I don't know. I'll tell you after I do it because I don't want to accidentally investment advice my stream. Honestly, like, saying this is not investment advice, really, like that. I mean, let's be real. Depending on how much money the other person lost, that might not hold up in the court of law. You know? Can you even afford one share? I got that Artemis 2 money, dude. Of course I can. I believe it's 135 on the IPO, Chimp. But yeah, guys, I don't think it's right for me to disclose things that like aerospace stocks that I'm going to buy. I don't think that's right. I will tell you after the fact. Just because I don't, there's fiscal responsibility there as a streamer that people watch, and like this stream being for profit that I think violates some ethical rules that I have. I really don't, to be honest, I don't invest in aerospace companies too much. I did have stock in Boeing. Brimo and I bought Boeing stock during COVID because I knew it was going to come back because it's Boeing. And we made a good chunk of money, and that was enough to put a down payment on a house, and that's why I have this shop. So that's good. That's good. But yeah, I don't kind of disclose what I'm going to invest in because I don't think that's ethical. I would like to meet that person that killed a gremlin. Cannon fodder, I have no idea how you broke. Brand new, 90 miles an hour. Oh. Rocket Lab 2. I wish I invested in Rocket Lab, dude. I wish I did. I did not buy Rocket Lab stock. Hey, Connor, what's going on? Sorry if this has been mentioned already. Is there a reason you aren't live on YouTube? I ran out of time to hit the live button on YouTube before the Starlink launch. It's really nothing more than that. Yeah, Maslim, that's exactly why I'm not going to say what I'm going to do. because of there's always, guys, all right, so this is not opinion, this is not investment advice. Like, every time a company IPOs, so an IPO is an initial public offering. Every time that happens, you get an initial bump, and then usually this is just based off of market trends from other IPOs in the past. It usually goes up and then it goes down. And then it eventually goes up because there's always hype behind an IPO, depending on if it's Tesla or, obviously SpaceX is. At this point, SpaceX is a major economic driver in the US economy. And I like, part of me is just like, how the heck did that happen, dude? I remember when SpaceX was this little scrappy aerospace company gluing trash bags to their second stage. Like, how did that happen? It happened real quick, dude. That was real fast, Yeah, Matt, dude, if you put in, like, with Rocket Lab, dude, if you put in, so check this out. If you bought at their IPO at $9 a share, look at where their stock was up at 143 the other day. 9 to 143. That's what is that? 14 times a return there, give or take. And even then, that's 11 times return. So if you invested $1,000 here and you're over here, it's almost 11 G's. And we wonder why it dipped, because somebody up here cashed out, because that's like a 1,400% return. I mean, Rocket Lab's awesome. It's really cool to see their stock go up. Big group of fish. Yeah, we like that. Rocket Lab's really cool. We like them. Please get Neutron working. I can confirm it's very nice. Is SpaceX going full public? No. They are not spinning off. That's not the right terminology. I'm not a finance bro. Please bear with me. They're spinning off a portion of the company with a certain types of stock. So basically, they're going IPO. They're gonna IPO on like 30 or 40% of SpaceX. So Elon and major shareholders like Gwen and everybody else will still have major control. Or like majority stake in the company, so nobody like. The reason why they did that is so what happened with Tesla doesn't happen again. Where the whole fiduciary responsibility thing, like you have that to an extent, but it doesn't. The entire company doesn't pivot on fiduciary responsibility to shareholders. Just some of it does. Can Rocket Lab continue to operate their Electron while developing Neutron? Well, yeah, of course. Did they not launch the other day? I'm pretty sure they launched the other day. Curveball. Yeah, there was an Electron launch this morning. It was a haste mission, though, out of Wallops. So, yeah, they of course they can. Electron is, at this point, guys, okay. At this point, Electron is not an expensive vehicle to make. It's doing exactly what Peter Beck. Oh, sorry about that. It's doing exactly what Peter Beck said it would. Like, you don't want to pursue reuse with Electron. You really need to focus on mass production, which I think is a very smart decision. That was really smart. Pivot to reusability later with Neutron. Right now, build as many Electrons as you can and launch as many satellites and make as much money as you possibly can. That'll give you a little bit of a bump while you move over to Neutron. And then once Neutron's up and running, do the same damn thing. Make as many of those mother truckers as you can. Because Rocket Lab's in a very interesting spot. They're in a spot where, well, to be quite frank, they launch things. They launch a lot. If SpaceX didn't exist, Rocket Lab, like, it gets overshadowed because Falcon 9 flies like 2 to 3 times a week. But one Electron launch a week is still pretty insane. That's really, 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 really good. Like, even 10 years ago, that's unheard of. 50 launches a year, that's bananas. Once again, it gets overshadowed by Falcon, right, which did 160 plus launches last year. But Electron's still no slouch. It's a good rocket. Connor, I usually watch on YouTube nowadays because ads, but might as well get my badge back over here. Thanks, man. I will start up YouTube here in a moment. But yeah. I'm sure Tom Mueller probably still holds a large amount of stock. Tom does. Hans Koningsman absolutely does. John Edwards does. Kiko Donchev does. Obviously, Elon, Gwen. Yeah, yeah. Yes, they do. And, I mean, dude, like, I'm not going to lie to you. Once again, not investment advice, etc. Well, it's not really investment advice at all. Guys, if you went and did like 5 years at SpaceX and you let your stock options vest, so like if you got hired at SpaceX in like 2020 and you know, I don't know what their stock option package is for employees, but like if they gave you like 4 or 5 stocks, right? And you know, you let that vest after a certain period of time as part of their employee compensation. Oh my goodness. The amount of people that are about to become millionaires if this IPO takes off, and that's what I mean about non-investment advice. We don't know that for sure. Can't predict the future. The amount of people, the amount of like buying power that like a bunch of kids that work at SpaceX have is about to be insane. They're about to all be freaking millionaires. It's just gonna be Ferraris showing up at Starbase all over the place. What's your plan for the day? Guessing you're holding off on welding during the heat wave. Yeah, there you go, JP. I'm not sure whether, guy. I'm not sure what we would do. I want to do a space news today, but I also want to cover that H3 flight test, the H3-30 test flight out of Tanegashima, which is at 7 o'clock tonight. The factory must grow. You mentioned Factorio, not exactly taxing on the Beast PC. That's a good idea. Yeah, I did tease Factorio yesterday. It is absurdly hot in the shop. Well, actually, it's not bad in the shop right now, but in a couple of hours when the sun starts beating on it, I really need to relegate like auto streams to the mornings. Like, because working on that thing in the afternoon sucks. I wonder what a blue IPO would look like. Probably pretty good, but are you worried about the new people who don't know how SpaceX tests seeing explosions on Starship and thinking it is a failure? Yes. Yeah, I've already started to see on social media people like posting investment advice. Like there's some financial guru talking about rockets and misunderstanding at least 3 or 4 laws of physics at the very least. Hey, New Mark, what's up? And then there's that whole fiasco with Jerry Rig Everything. Man, chat told me about that thread yesterday at the end of Space News, and I went and read it, and I'm just like, oh. Hey, P, how are you, mate? How's your winter going, mate? Probably pretty freaking cold down there. Oh boy, what did I miss? Jerry Rig Everything posted a thing on X, Drummer, yesterday about how heat rejection in space with the Starlink satellite doesn't work because of the operating temperature that computer processors work at, and how it won't work in a vacuum. Like fundamentally misunderstanding at least one law of thermodynamics. Like, And I'll be real, guys getting roasted in the comments, like roasted, like heat rejection, like no radiator in space, roasted. Like it's kind of a fun read if you have some spare time, like the guy getting absolutely dunked on by like every STEM educator. It's pretty funny. I feel bad, but man, come on now. Like, and I said this yesterday on Space News. Look, I get stuff wrong. We all get stuff wrong. Sometimes I make mistakes. Sometimes, the boys at NSF, we make mistakes, guys. It happens. You're on a live cast for 8 hours a day. Now, you're going to say something wrong. That happens. Whether you just don't explain it right or the way the question is phrased, or you could be misremembering something. I swear to you, like 90% of my mistakes are just me not remembering something because I try to remember it off the top of my head to prove to you that I know what I'm talking about. Like, I'm not reading off of a cue card when I give you guys explanations. That's why I deadpan into the damn camera every time I'm talking to you guys answering questions. Because I'm talking to you. If you asked a question, I'm not reading off of a cue card. I mean, it's a dead giveaway if I'm looking for the information. I'll be like, oh yeah, that's what's going on. But then again, I usually say that I have to look it up. With that being said, I do make mistakes. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I don't. I have made plenty of mistakes explaining nuclear physics before, and I still need to brush up on it, and I'll get better at it. Like, it's the more you explain it, the better you get. With that all being said, I really don't think that this was a mistake. I've never, ever, and this is somebody that doesn't have a formal engineering background. I've never misunderstood the laws of thermodynamics. Ever. Ever. Ever, period, full stop. I've never made that mistake. I can say with the utmost confidence that I've never screwed that up. Oh, good, Funko, how you doing? Oh, what's going on? Yeah, Jim, that's the guy. Like, I've never made that mistake. I've never misunderstood the laws of thermodynamics because, like, that's like misunderstanding addition when it comes to physics. Addition to math is what thermodynamics to physics is what addition is to math. Like, you do not make that mistake. I screw up on abstract concepts, so like the more advanced stuff. But yeah, the fundamentals, I really never, I don't get those wrong. And if I do, it's because I haven't slept in like 3 days or something. Like, I have a physics degree, and thermodynamics is the most straightforward part of the whole thing. Yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, okay, so Matt, just for context here, heat rejection in space is a pretty linear thing. You generate more heat, you bigger radiator. Done. The problem, if I'm understanding this correctly, the problem is the amount of power that you need to keep the radiators working. If you're going to generate more heat, it's harder to shed that heat in the vacuum, so you need a more comprehensive rejection system. And you're going to need more power to run it. There's no secret. I mean, like, that it's not hard. Like, this is not difficult. Like, I don't really particularly like the idea of data centers in space. Actually, I don't mind data centers in space. It's AI data centers in space where I'm kind of like, yeah. Are you going to watch Elon Ring-a-Ding-Ding tomorrow? Yeah, probably. Oh, no, if it's in the morning, I might not be able to. We'll see. Like, fellas, I try to be, look, I love SpaceX. I love it. I've been following this company for 15 years, very closely, every single mission. With the exception of the mass amounts of Starlink. So every single high-profile mission. I've watched every Crew Dragon flight live, almost every Crew Dragon landing live. I watched DM2. I watched all the high-profile flights. I was there for the first Falcon 9 landing. I was there. I was down at the Cape. I saw it. It was nuts. It was me and Das and Big D and Popsky and a bunch of other people were there for the first Falcon Heavy flight. We were on the causeway. We were on the ITL causeway. I saw those boosters land. I've seen 2 super heavies get caught. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. No, I'm a huge fanboy. But I also believe I also believe in business ethics. No, I try to be objective. And I try to not let the political static that Elon generates affect my judgment in what's going on with SpaceX. It's about the rockets in this stream. It's always been about the rockets. It's always been about the tech. And it won't change. You have my word. You have my word on that. New Astra post alert. Oh yeah? Already had that one teed up, dude. What does it mean by final private SpaceX launch? So Ryan, SpaceX is IPOing tomorrow, and a portion of the company will become publicly traded. The reason why I wanted to cover this random Starlink launch is because that it's the end of an era. That is the last private SpaceX launch. So one chapter closes, new chapter begins. You can't cheat physics. Physics treats us all equally. That's the other reason why I like math and physics so much, Matt. And I really wish I had learned this like when I was like 15 instead of when I was like 25. But I like physics because it's inalienable. You can't change the laws of physics, Captain. You can bend them with some quantum stuff if you really know what you're doing, but that's not really my area of expertise. In practical physics, the laws are inalienable. You cannot change them. There is no room for opinion or interpretation in this matter. Newton's laws are Newton's laws, and they don't change. And I love it. There's no room for people in their dookie opinions about this. 2 + 2 is always going to equal 4. There's nothing you can do about that. I don't care how people feel. Physics doesn't care about that. And I think that's it's a datum in a world where everyone has an opinion, especially with social media. I like it. I like it a lot. I really wish I had understood that when I was 15 and went home and just played Counter-Strike every day. You know? I just saw an article saying Raptor 3 doesn't have equal and opposite force, it just goes up. Once again, Blocks, I really wish that I had understood this when I was 25 instead of 15. If I had an educator, a STEM outreach educator on the internet, tell me, hey, dookie shoes, you can't play video games all day and then build rockets. If you want to be a rocket scientist, you have to learn the math. Dickhead. My life would be on a very different trajectory. I cannot emphasize this enough of a good education, at least up until you're 18. All right? It doesn't matter if you want to be a janitor or an aerospace engineer. All right? A good education will make it so you're not up till 3 a.m. posting opinionated videos about Raptor, saying that it violates a couple of laws of physics when you don't understand laws of physics and you're making yourself look like an idiot on the internet. See, I do that too, but I do that on my own terms. And I make sure to never be like, well, the way Raptor engine doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm an idiot on my own terms. All right, let me put it that way. I hate how everybody in the media becomes an instant expert on the topic. The second it becomes a major talking point. The trouble is so many people will lap it up as factual. Yeah. Engagement bait. What are you going to do? Come be a machinist. The trade is dying and it's very important for aerospace. JP, I'm looking to procure a Bridgeport mill and lathe. Particularly computerized, because that'll help my computer brain figure out how to use it. But how nice would it be if I had a CNC plasma cutter or a CNC mill or a CNC lathe? Like, can you imagine what, dude, I can model things. I can build stuff in CAD. I'm very good at that.
Oh, this is space. I'm in space.
Like, I would love to do machining streams with you guys. Can you imagine how much easier it would be to make all these parts that I'm making by hand with a damn angle grinder if I had a CNC cutter? I'm not asking. I have money. All right, you guys took very good care of me through DBF and Artemis 2. We're good. Right? But also, get your dad to teach you. Bingo. JP, my old man is a machinist by trade. Actually, by trade, he's a gym teacher. But my dad found out in the 70s that being a gym teacher doesn't pay the bills, so he worked for Parker Hannifin, which was an aerospace contractor making oil pumps for jet engines, machining them by hand. My dad worked on the F-22 and the F-23 programs, particularly machining the oil pumps for those planes. Aerospace is in my blood, dude. My dad's brother's an engineer. My dad's dad was a freaking tradesman at the shipyard. Why do you think I like the Four Rivers Shipyard in Quincy so much? I make it a thing to mention it all the time because my grandpa worked there building ships. My dad is from Quincy, and he lived over here by this abomination of a road called the Braintree Split. If you know, you know. But my dad's dad worked in the shipyard over here. Once upon a time, this was the Four River Shipyard, and they did not make small boats. Four River Shipyard during World War II was cranking out heavy cruisers, Baltimore class, and later Des Moines and then Salem class. They also made aircraft carriers. So if we go down to Corpus Christi in Texas, the Lexington CV-16. Where are you? I forget where it is, and I really hate that I forget where it is, but the Lexington that's down there, it's a museum ship that was built in Boston, man, or Quincy. Heck you, Baltimore. Yep. Where is it? This is all oil stuff in here. It's probably not in there. Old school manual machines are pretty damn good. Ah, there it is. Yep, see? That boat was made in Massachusetts, baby. Also, I just want to point out how ridiculously large an F-14 is. Just on a quick side note, that is a big frigging plane. Yep, that's a boat. Not a boat. Ship. Differences. What's the difference? A ship can't be taken out of water. A ship needs a dry dock. A boat you can lift it up out of water. That's the difference. Check Discord General. That's the CNC you need.
Can you believe it?
Can you believe it? What? Oh my goodness. Okay. What exactly? How many axis of a mill is this?
Can you believe it? This thing sells for $2 million, which is about as 25 years of living expenses for an average family. And I'm not talking about the entire machine. I'm talking about just this one machining head. Its name is the Starrag Sprint Z3 Parallel Kinematic Machining Head. So why is it so expensive?
Oh, ho, 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 ho. Billet impeller. Actually, I think that's a compressor. It's not an impeller. I don't have $2 million, but that would be sick. Dude, it's on a chuck too. This thing can work like a frigging lathe. Oh God, it's like a 5-axis mill and a lathe combined into one. So, cool thing, Brimo's dad, guys, he see machines like that? Bree's dad is a CNC machine repair guy. He fixes stuff like that. That's what Bree's dad does for the auto companies in Detroit. That's what he does. That F-14 is the last sorts of spare parts of it in existence. What model is it, Jar? Is it an F-14A? Machining stuff is sick, dude. Yeah. This right here, you want it. This is the nuts and bolts of an aerospace program. This is the nuts and bolts of any advanced manufacturing. Anything from jet engines, steam turbines, rocket engine impellers. You don't have precision tooling, you can't do any of that. That's very important. So I really, really would like it to get some of these machines and then figure out how to do it. And not just figure out how to do it, figure out how to do it right. Because I got my dad. My dad can help me with this. Look up DMG Mori DMC 100FD. That's what you program for. Okay. What are we talking about here? Okay. This just looks like something that you'd see in a satisfactory, or not satisfactory, in a stationeer's save. Bro. 5-axis that can turn? Dude, this freaking thing. No not JP. Wow. That is a big freaking machine. Wow. So you have XYZ 63, 63, 43. You can handle a 63-inch diameter for the chuck? Wow. That's no joke, dude. Yeah. That's a big freaking machine. This does not convey the scale correctly. These machines are the size of a semi-truck. Especially that big one, the DMC 160. You're on this one right here, which is still pretty freaking big, dude. That's a freaking huge machine. And if you have to ask, you probably can't afford it. Haas EC 400. They look like a bunch of freaking vankers, Gene. Nice. That's also a pretty big machine. Hey! $250,000? I mean, Haas is pretty damn affordable for what it is. From what I understand, Haas isn't the best out there, but they're good enough, and for the price, you really can't compete. Like, if you're not doing super precise tolerance, this stuff is the best. Last. Input block of aluminum, output Chevy small block. Yeah, Tessa, that machine that JP was just showing, you could make a billet engine block with that. Sure, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it looks like this DMG Mori is Siemens. Oh, that's the control software. Okay. So it's DMG Mori, there's Haas, there's Mazak. What else is out there? Mazak Intergrexes are pretty crazy. I know about those ones. I like Bridgeports. Call me old school. There's Matsura, yeah. Fanuc. There's all kinds. This is good stuff, dude. Machining stuff and making parts is cool. If you like Factorio and stuff, it scratches the itch, dude. Like watching something get machined, it activates some weird neuron activation in your head. Like, I don't know if you guys ever watched something get machined. I've been in machine shops with my dad, and I've seen parts get machined. I've seen parts for rockets get machined. I won't say which ones. I can't say which ones. But DMG sponsors Porsche's LMP1 program. There you go. What mill are you generally looking at? A Bridgeport. Bridgeport mill would be really useful. If I can get a CNC controlled, so a Bridgeport mill that could do manual or CNC that's been modified, dude, alleviate. Like I'm telling you guys, Remember, I'm a CAD guy by trade. I can make parts. That's not an issue. We could put it. I was gonna say I could use Creo, but I haven't used Creo in a long time. I can use NX. I can use AutoCAD. I could probably figure out SolidWorks. I've never used it, but I could figure it out. All the CAD systems is pretty much the same workflow. It doesn't matter if you're making levels for video games, or if you're making an aerospace part. Like it's you give me a line drawing, I can make it for you. You give me 2 weeks with SolidWorks or Fusion 360, I'll have it figured out. I'll be able to make whatever you want. The R&D process of part development live on stream would be awesome. Yeah, Dean, how sick would that be, making custom parts for the Coronet? Or any car. Like, and the reason why I'd say cars is because I wouldn't want to go and, like, make rocket parts on stream without having the proper certifications, like an L1 or an L2 or an L3, etc., etc. I don't need police showing up at my house. We'd start with car parts and go from there. You need a bigger shop. Yeah, I do. Don't worry. I have a big enough yard where we could add a machining hub to the side. Start by 3D printing your own stuff. You can always get a shop to make it for you. Yeah, we could do that. I don't know why my brain, that's never dawned on me with, like, what we do in the shop and stuff. That's just never, like, I'm like, no, I gotta make the parts by hand with an angle grinder and cut it up. And, like, I don't have to do that. What I would really like to do is 3D scan the Coronet at this point in time. Scan the damn thing. I should have done that. We should have done that to start. I would have been able to see the tolerances a lot easier, and we wouldn't have needed a frame jig. Next project car, we'll do that. We'll scan it. The F-14 on the Lexington is an F-14A, and it was used in the Top Gun movie. That's cool, man. Pick up an Xbox Kinect. I have a Kinect, actually. AP. Oh, shoot. I forgot. I bought the wiring to wire the Kinect in for a scanner. That's literally sitting in the... I forgot I did that. I have one. But Xbox Kinect is not the best scanner around, but... I mean, we have really good lighting in the shop. That'd be really good for a scanner, because the guy that built this shop he was a painter. So he needed the light to be able to see the stuff that he was painting. Well, you're not milling sheet metal. Yeah, farm. I mean, with sheet metal, we'd really need to make we'd need a stamping. And with a stamping, you need to learn tool and die. And I mean, I could probably figure that out. Once again, the 3D computer animation degree that I got prepared me for a lot more things than I really thought it would at the time. Last, please. With the right print material, you could 3D print a part and make a wax casting. Yeah, we could, Tessa, I could cast parts. We could do sand castings. I could do that. Yeah, the 3D printer, that's what 3D printers were designed for. It's a machining or a casting process called stereolithography. Yeah, that's why 3D printing files have a .stl extension, because 3D printing was devised by the aerospace industry for making very high fidelity castings. That's what 3D printing is. That's what PLA is. It's just stereolithography. You can make some pretty advanced stuff with a 3D printer and a sand cast if you really know what you're doing. Do you have a surveying place nearby? I'm fairly certain you can rent a total station for a day fairly reasonable. You're welcome. Aren't you glad we have these conversations? Yeah. You had it, this degree is actually useful moment. Yeah. You've done casts from 3D prints. Yeah, well, once again, that's... My dad taught me this. The STL. Stereolithography. It's something that's... when I first showed my dad 3D printers, I'm like, dude, look at this. Instead of machining stuff, you can make this. And my dad's like, what? What are you talking about? Like, I'm like, what do you mean? What am I talking about? This thing can 3D print. It's so much better than like a CNC machine. He goes, no, it's not. That's used for making castings, you moron. And I'm like, what? I think my dad said something along the lines of like, go back to your computer world or something. This was a number of years ago. This was like 10 years ago. Yeah, that's my old man. He saw it. He was like, yeah, so. He's like, dude, I had that. We had things like that in the 70s, making castings for airplane parts. Like, that's not new. I'm like, yeah, but could you afford one at home? He's like, no, but I've seen that before. That's no big deal. I'm like, all right, cool. I guess I'll go back to my computer world then. That happened, dude. That conversation happened. Yeah, that's the relationship I have with my dad. Love you, man. Go back to your computer, smart guy. I'm like, all right. D&G makes printers / mills that print metal with one head and then finish mills with another. That's cool, man. Yeah, go back to your Minecraft. Dude, you have no idea how much crap I got in my 20s for like being the computer nerd. I'm like, yeah, I'd really love to learn how to work on cars. Nah, don't worry about it. You stick with your computer stuff. I'm like, all right. All right. All right, I guess. All right. Well, it's noontime, guys. Oh, hold up real quick. I know we're still technically in Starlink coverage here, but Northrop Grumman posted the mission profile for the Catalyst Space Swift Boost mission. NSF's cameras they're redoing the links. That's what that voice was. Freaking TriStar, man. What a sweet looking airplane. Oh, so that's what the $1 trillion funding is for the military. No. This thing is pocket change jar for the military, dude. That's nothing. We gonna cover this, yeah? Bro, I'm not missing the last one unless it's at a time where it... Watch, it's gonna be at a time where I can't be here. Right now, there's no time frame on it. It just says net June. I'm sure I could go ask somebody. Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting some people that work at Catalyst a little while back, which is pretty cool. Because at the time, I was like, what do you do? And the other person was like, oh, I work for Catalyst. And I'm like, I have never heard of that. I don't know what that means. And they're like, well, this is what we're doing. You'll see. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. And then this mission came up, and I'm like, I sent the guy a message. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Send them a request to fly on board, then they will launch on behalf of NSF. Yeah. All right, I want to see this video, but I don't want the sound. Because it's... Oh. I'm sorry, man. TriStars are cooler than DC-10 MD-11s. I'm sorry. It's just a cooler looking plane. I don't care what anybody... Look at the S-duct, man. The S-duct. They are a pretty looking airplane. It's a big one, too. TriStars are huge. They're not as big as a 747, but they're almost as big as a 747. It's close. And TriStars have RB211 engines. They have Rolls RB211s, which is a very, very good turbofan. Yeah, Jan, Rolls-Royce, the RB211s. They're the same motors that are on certain versions of 757s. They RB211s have insanely high power to weight, or thrust to weight. They're really, really good motors. It's Rolls-Royce. There's the best. Laughs in General Electric. Ha, 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 ha. Proven launch success. Northrop Grumman. We don't miss. What button you pressing over there? Stall warning? Off. Oh, they're testing. Yeah, testing the stall warning system, part of pre-flight. So that is your test indicators for your brake temperature sensors on your gear. Yeah, you don't want those getting too hot. That would end poorly. I was talking with a friend last night and we forgot what happened to Virgin Orbit's launch plane, Cosmic Girl. Cosmic Girl was sold. It wasn't scrapped though. It's still airworthy. Another company bought it. It's here, I'll show you. It's over here. Yes, I know that off the top of my head. Another company bought it for hypersonic testing and have been using it pretty effectively. So it doesn't launch stuff to orbit. It's just subsonic, but it's subsonic. That's not the right word. It's suborbital hypersonic. It's used as a suborbital hypersonic test platform. Think like what the B-52s with the fifth pylon do. Like, it's not launching anything like an X-15, but yeah, it's used for a hypersonics testing. Didn't General Electric break up in 2024? No. Have you looked at the DC-10s that operate as firefighting air tankers? I spent some time around those. Yeah, those are cool. I just don't like DC-10s, Dan. I am particularly not a fan of your engine pylon lug mounting system. In my very armchair expertise of mechanical engineering, using spherical bearings to mount a pylon is the stupidest thing you could possibly do. Why a spherical bearing? That makes no sense. That's not the correct bearing for the application. A bushing would probably be a better thing to use. But what the hell do I know? Spherical bearings to mount engines. That's weird. I mean, I suppose it makes sense when you consider like the angular momentum that's created from precession during rotation, during a plane rotation, but the way that aft pylon mounts, and honestly, this comes from the NTSB investigation about UPS 2976. The way the aft pylon lug is mounted on a basically doubled up aluminum lug with a spherical bearing sandwiched inside of it is like,
Discovery, go at throttle up.
why would you do that way? I'm not sure why you'd mount an engine like that. That's like think about it like a car having a square tire. Could it work? Yeah. Will it work? Yeah, that's not really the right shape for the movement that you're trying to achieve, but, you know, it's fine. How do regular planes mount it? Well, do a little tangent here. Just change the title up. We should go live on YouTube. We'll go live on YouTube when we switch to Factorio, which will be in a second. So, give me a second. I'll get you a... So, I'm not finding the right drawing. Give me 1 second. So long story short, struts hold the pylon in place like on a 737. Here we go. This picture gets it across. So here's the thing, fellas. See how it struts and you have clevis on the end of the struts with a bushing, right? Engines, when on an airplane, like turbofans, they're spinning, all right? Obviously. If you guys cast your mind back to like elementary school science, did you ever take the bike tire to like have the teacher tell you about angular momentum? You take the bike tire and you start spinning it, right? And then you try to turn it, and the angular momentum really like prevents you from turning it. That phenomenon happens anytime a plane is going down the runway and you get to V1 and you rotate the plane, right? You rotate the plane up. It puts a lot of stress on the pylons because the engine is spinning, right? And you're turning the engines upright. So you get a lot of angular momentum that wants to make the engines go in or go in the direction of spin. So like if you have two engines on a plane that spin this way, when you go to rotate the airplane, they're going to want to turn to the right. Just a little bit. That's why if you're flying on an airplane and you look at the engine can move a little bit. They allow for a little bit of movement to take this behavior into account. Like if you're maneuvering the plane and you're turning or you're rotating the plane up or down, the engines are going to want to do this. Right? So with Boeing, what they do is they have struts. The struts allow for a little bit of play. It allows for this movement. What an MD-11 has is spherical bearings on a pylon mount. There's the lug. The spherical bearing is inside of two doubled up aluminum lugs like this. They're two aluminum castings, right, that are on the pylon. And yeah, you have to, so McDonnell Douglas's idea here was to just grease this. You put some grease in there and the spherical bearing will dampen out the vibrations and it'll dampen out the movement from the engines. Problem is it's not fully damping it out. You need the grease in there. The thing needs to stay lubricated with Zerks and it needs to be lubricated often. This is what we figured out from UPS 2976 when they went to rotate the stupid airplane and the engine, the aft pylon lug broke and the engine went up. It went up and over the fuselage of the plane. I don't want to really show that. It's pretty brutal footage, so I'm not going to. But yeah, see, your spherical bearing here is inside of a spherical race, and those races are in the lug. It's not great. That's not really going. It's probably good for damping vibrations, but that's not really dealing with the type of precession movement that the engine encounters when you rotate the plane. It's a wear item. In my opinion, an item that wears like that is not solving the exact mechanical problem. Like if you have parts that wear out, like on a car, bushings wear out over time. That's because you put stress on these parts because maybe the angle isn't exactly right for like a tie rod, right? A tie rod ideally would want to be pushing through the center of mass of a hub, right? Ideally, but you can't do that. You have to have a little bit of leverage to be able to turn a tire. So a tie rod is what attaches to the hub to be able to make the wheel turn. right? There are ways to attach that in such a way that does not, the part won't wear out for a long time, but that gets into very advanced steering geometry, and not every car is going to have that because you don't want to pay $120,000 for a pickup truck. You don't want to pay $120,000 for a car. Let's just leave it at that. So they design the parts as wear items. And on a car I can understand. On an airplane, that's really dumb. Yeah, I don't think that that's a smart thing to do with airplanes. Like, you want these parts to last as long as possible because that means the airplane spends less time on the ground. Am I thinking about this correctly? Like, it's 3 spherical bearings. You have a spherical bearing on your aft lugs here that fit into the wing clevis, right? And then you have your main mounts here, which is 2 spherical bearings that are stacked on top of each other. And then, so the thrust link right here is there to dampen out the movement from like a shock-induced thrust. So like when you throttle up, the whole pylon's going to want to go forward, and it needs to pull the plane with it. The thrust link is there to absorb that energy and transfer it into the wing so the plane moves. But yeah, if somebody wants to explain to me why spherical bearings are a good idea for mounting an engine pylon, I'd really be interested in hearing this, because in my very, very inexperienced mechanical mind, that's a really dumb way to do that. I mean, it's easy for me to say that in retrospect, especially after what happened with the UPS 2976. But sorry I'm late, but I just watched Elon's new Starship video. Good watch for 42 minutes. We can watch that for Space News, Chano, if you want. Yeah, I don't think that that's a particularly good way to do that. But I don't know. I have the mechanical engineering knowledge of a first-year mechanical engineering student, so it's very possible that my eye is bigger than my stomach here. Like, I'm writing checks my tush can't cash mechanically. But yeah, this, at face value, that seems like a much better system. This is a 737, like struts that are clevis, that have a little bit of play, right? Instead of a spherical bearing to absorb vibrations. I just, that's really dumb. I don't know why somebody would make that way. But then again, McDonnell Douglas, so what do you want? Cosma, what do you have? Hanbit Nano launch campaign mission coverage. Hanbit Nano's journey to Alcantara in Brazil has officially begun. Cool. All right, I'll save that one for Space News. Dan, if I had to guess, I would say it allows for the engine mount to avoid the stresses that would encounter during sudden changes in the yard direction of the aircraft, such as when the airplane is keeping itself going down the center line and there's a lot of rapid yaw adjustments. Just a guess, though. Yeah. Dan, it very much seems like the people that engineered those aft pylon mounts put those spherical bearings in there for, like, as a vibration damper. Because 3 spherical bearings aren't going to give you the play. That's not going to give you the play that you want. It's not going to give you the movement that you want. And I know that because the freaking aft lug failed. It's a wear item, which is, I'm not sure why somebody thought it'd be a good idea to put a wear item on an engine pylon. Like, why would someone do that? A wear item in your propulsion that can fail in flight. Spherical bearings aren't a bad idea in theory. The implementation was crap. Yeah, I can understand like one spherical bearing spoiled. Like, or a spherical bearing for your main mounts. That makes sense. Once again, for, it should dampen out the movement, but 2 spherical bearings on top of each other aren't going to do this. The whole thing's going to want to move like this, right? And that puts an insane amount of wear on your lower spherical bearing and then the aft lug as well. Like, because once again, when a plane rotates, the engines want to do this. They want to go up and to the right, or in the direction of spin. So if you have 2 engines that are spinning like this, counterclockwise, when the plane rotates, the engines are going to want to go that way. They're want to go up and to the left. Like it spherical bearings don't solve that. That's not even a damper for that kinetic motion. That's just a straight wear item. Like, do you want a list of how many plane crashes in general happened in 2026? I don't need a list, Jar. I watch a couple of AvGeek channels pretty religiously here about NTSB investigations. I watch Blanco Lirio, so Juan Brown. I watch every one of his videos. I learn a ton about airplanes from that dude. Juan Brown, so Blanco Lirio on YouTube, he was a C-141 pilot in the Air Force and then a 767 pilot after that. Guy has buku experience in airplanes, like a ridiculous amount of hours. Captain Steve is also good. Yeah, my dad watches Captain Steve Ordon. Yeah, that guy's cool. Yeah, I love getting the insight from pilots. Like, I learned a lot from Juan Brown about flying a visual approach into Newark on runway 26 and why because it's a manual approach where you have to use your PAPI. You have to use the PAPI because there's no ILS on that. It's a manual approach from 500 feet in. Think like Kai Tak in Hong Kong, similar idea. How it's very easy to get lured into a false sense of security because right before final, you have to do basically a 90-degree right-hand turn to get on the glide slope for the runway. So what happened the other day is a 767 was flying that approach, right? And the guy called stable at 500, which was right at the time, but he throttled the engines back, and the plane went way too low. Yeah, way too low, way too fast, and the 767's landing gear hit a street light on the highway on the approach to the runway. Street light hit a truck. So the plane hit the street light hit the truck, like crushed the freaking cab on this poor trucker's truck and like completely destroyed the day cab. And the landing gear came quite actually probably less than a foot from the top of this semi-truck. I'd say maybe this much, maybe 5 inches at best. The N1s on the RB211s are massive and they seem heavy, so there's a lot of energy stored there, especially in the 95 to 100% MRT. Yep. Yeah. I don't think the wheels didn't catch the trailer, Thomp. If the wheels caught the trailer, that landing would have gone very different. A wheel hit the street light and then no. How did that work? So the wheel of the plane on approach hit a street light, which hit the truck, and then another light scraped the back of the fuselage. Like, I'll be honest, that was probably maybe about this much from a catastrophic disaster. Like, actually this much. If that right gear on that 767 hits the trailer, no one walks away. Mom Victory works at EWR. Oh, okay. Factorio today? I think so. I don't know if you guys hear. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let me go over to Juan's channel. But yeah, I learned tons about plane procedures and stuff and approaches and just like how planes work and what you should and shouldn't do. So this is Juan Brown's channel. This is Blanco Lirio. I'll link it up in chat. He's awesome. Why am I? It unsubscribed me. What the hell? I hate it when that happens. Here. Juan shows some video from a security camera in Newark. Watch this. When I say that is quite actually about 6 inches from a catastrophic disaster, that's what I mean. If that bogey hits the trailer, this plane does not land. It kind of... Look at how close that actually is. That's, once again, maybe 6 inches. She was at lot P6 when it happened. Well, it lands just, yeah. Dude. That is so close, dude. That's about as close as it gets. I do believe that a pilot would call that a pucker moment. And Juan is fully supported through Patreon. He doesn't do YouTube ads because he refuses to chase the algorithm. Yeah, good dude. Zero. That guy is an incredible source of information about airplanes. I've learned so much from him over the years. I started following Juan Brown when he did kind of citizen journalism about the Oroville Dam in California. In 2017, the spillway in the Oroville Dam, which is the 6th largest dam in the United States, it's an irrigation dam that's in Northern California. The spillway failed because of lack of maintenance, and he would get in his plane and he would fly around and take pictures of it. And dude, it is, yeah, I started following him since then. I like religiously watch all of his videos, which is why I'm kind of annoyed that it unsubscribed me, but hey, whatever. Here, let me link up his YouTube channel. So, yeah, he's, there you go. I just linked up to 767 video. They're really good videos. He just talks about, like, general aviation failures and stuff. I've learned a ton about how airplanes work from him. The flight crew didn't hear anything when it happened. Yeah, and then they got out of the plane and saw there was a scrape in the fuselage and went, okay. So, up here in Northern California, in this, I believe, okay, forgive me, guys. I'm from the opposite side of the country. This is, what's this called? Central Valley? This whole thing? There's tons of farms in here. This is, so, just on a quick side note, see this valley right here in California? It actually goes it goes from Red Bluff all the way to Bakersfield. It's gigantic. You can absolutely see that valley from space. What this was at one point was an inland ocean. Actually, most of this was an inland ocean, but that's another story. So the soil is extremely fertile here because it was an ocean at one point. So you could see there's farms everywhere. Like, mass industrial farming takes place here. And if you live on the West Coast, most likely your food is grown here. So, obviously, in certain parts of California, it's a freaking desert, right? So, what agricultural engineers in like the 40s, 50s, and well, it's actually started in the 20s and went all the way to the 60s, basically, and into the 70s. What they did was, you have a lot of ice melt coming from the Rocky Mountains. And there's a raining season and it floods, right? The valley would flood certain times of the year. So what they did was they built a bunch of agricultural dams. You could see these lakes right there, right there, there. You can see that it's all down the line. They're catching all the frost melt from the mountains. What they do is they store it in reservoirs and they use it for power generation first and foremost, but they also use it to irrigate this land. If you zoom in, there's man-made rivers and canals everywhere. Guys, that's not a road. It's not a road. It's a river. If they look like roads, they ain't roads. And that's to irrigate this so you can farm all throughout the year. You can farm 365 days. Before, you could only farm at certain times because you could only get irrigation, but they put in all these dams here. So when Juan covered the Oroville Dam, it kind of set me down a rabbit hole a little bit about how important these reservoirs are to anybody that lives on the West Coast. There's the Oroville Dam and there's the spillway. If we go back to
Discovery, go and throttle up.
2017 is when it happened. Yeah, see? That's not great. and it kind of, I went down a rabbit hole of how important irrigation is in the Central Valley. If you don't have year-round irrigation in the Central Valley, most of the West Coast starves. We don't want that. That's bad. That would be not great. So, like, a spillway breaking and one of these dams going out of commission could cause food prices to spike and then could cause scarcity. So it's this is like a critical backbone of infrastructure for the area. And that's when I started watching Juan Brown. That was back in 2017. Yeah, the Oroville Dam is an insane engineering project. It's the 6th biggest dam in the United States, period. And now it's not a hydroelectric dam per se. It's a dirt dam, and what it's designed to do is hold the water back. Hold the water back so you can farm all the time. Now it does do electrical power generation. There is a small, it is a hydroelectric dam, because why wouldn't you? But they also release water through the spillway to make sure that the rivers don't dry up. So farmers can use it to grow food, so people can, do that whole living thing. Yeah, super cool thing to understand, like how we cultivated the West to be able, the Central Valley, to be able to feed everyone. Without this, Los Angeles, San Francisco, it can't exist. There's no way to get food out there. I'd say Sacramento to an extent as well, but look at how the farms go on. Like, okay, so if you're European here, you don't necessarily understand the scale. Look at how long this valley is. It goes from Reading all the way to Bakersfield, which is down here. It's almost 700 kilometers long. The valley itself is about 100 kilometers wide. So we're talking like 400 miles by 60 miles wide. It's gigantic. That feeds this is the breadbasket. This feeds the entire West Coast. Without this, quite actually none of these cities can exist. Do 700 by 100 over Central Europe. That's a good idea. Let's just start. We'll start it in Madrid. Yeah. Freaking ridiculous, man. How's that, huh? Actually, I got a better idea. This will put it into perspective. That Central Valley is quite actually the size of the British Isles. Yeah. That's a farm that's the size of the entirety of, England, Wales, and Scotland. Yeah, that's how big that valley is. It's no joke. It quite actually feeds like all of the West Coast. Without that, people are gonna have a bad day. California's a hell of a state. They're just a bit bizarre. See Ernok. Well, Ernok ain't from California. He just lives there, in his own words. It produces a lot of food for the whole country in general. The Central Valley is all farmland. Yep, we're talking about a landmass the size of the British Isles. That's just all farm. From California, can confirm we are bizarre. I don't think you guys are bizarre. You just misunderstood. All right, I can speak to this being from Massachusetts. We are definitely weird up here. Just misunderstood. You know what I'm saying? No, they're bizarre. Yeah, I mean, misunderstood. Sure. Nah, you're a mass. Hey, all right. That is a term of endearment up here. Okay. Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood. Misunderstood because your pronunciation is atrocious. Hey, our accent is older than the garden variety American accent, okay? It's not atrocious. Your accent is atrocious. Is this what people from England do? It is. Tea in the harbor. All right. Tea in the harbor. Hey, don't lump us in with Portland. I have a theory about the Pacific Northwest. There's so many trees, so there's a lot of oxygen and higher O2 because there's so many trees. Higher, that higher O2 levels just make people act weird. That's absolutely not a thing. It's pseudoscience. I'm just giving you guys crap. It's definitely a different vibe up there. Let me tell you that. I've only been to Seattle though, so where I really want to go is down here at some point, the Willamette Valley. And I learned how to say that right. My cousin married somebody from Portland, Willamette. I could not say that. I could not say it correctly for the longest time. But that's where Evergreen is, which is a kick-butt aerospace museum. The extra O2 feeds your brains. Yeah, it also makes you a little weird. The Pacific Northwest is full of people that couldn't handle Alaska. That's kind of funny. Another great agricultural zone is Almeria's greenhouses in the south of Spain. They're much smaller and feed the entirety of Europe because basically of more efficient practices. Yeah. It's Willamette, damn it. Yeah, exactly. You can come stay over and watch a solid rocket test in Ogden. I need to make it to Utah at some point, Blackness. And the reason why I need to get out there, obviously Northrop Grumman, the Ogden, they're Promontory Point facilities, but Promontory Point. I would love to see the Golden Spike at some point. Being a, train nutter. Where's that damn Golden Spike? It's around here somewhere. Hill Air Force Base. I don't think I could go tour that, but that'd be pretty sick. So Northrop Grumman's test facilities are right here. See all of them? And then the test stands are up in the hills. This is where they test like SLS's solids and stuff. And I always thought it's really cool because on the test stands, if you look behind the test stands, they scrape it's down to bedrock because the SRB blows all the topsoil off of the hill and you could see the bedrock. Where my crazy brain goes like, hey, why don't we use rocket engines for mining stuff? That's a really good idea. But then the other part of the brain that's rational says that's a really stupid idea. You should probably just use an excavator. Like, see, the test stands, they blew off all the topsoil right down to bedrock because, yeah, it turns out SRB flames are extremely hot. But Strimmer, man, you got standards. Yeah, I know. Dang freaking rational brain. But yeah, the Golden Promontory Point is the Golden Spike somewhere over here. I don't know exactly where it is on Google Earth. I'm sure I could find it if I wanted to. I've been to Four Corners, Blackness. Remo and I, during Route 154, drove to Four Corners. Now, keep in mind, this is before Starlink, so I had no reception during this part of the stream. But I drove to Four Corners, and I've gotten to here. Because I thought it was just something that you could just drive up to and see. It's a park, and it has hours, and it closed. Bro, it's what do you like? What do you mean? It's just a post in the dirt. Like what? Why would you close this? That's like charging people money to go see Plymouth Rock. Like, bro, it's a rock. Like, you could just walk up to it because it's a freaking rock. At least we understand that here. I don't know if it's to make money off of it, Hellfish. I think it's national park or something. Either that or I think it's on it's on the reservation. And I think they are the keepers. They maintain the four corners. So that would make sense. 4014 goes through Ogden often, so if you time it right, yeah. Hey, the rock changed me, okay? Yep. But imagine how much money you could make if you made access to the rock a pay-per-view. I would not do that for ethical reasons. I have my limits. They did that to limit traffic. Interesting. Maddie, what's up? How is SpaceX going to all the... Sorry. How is SpaceX going to all the pre-launch testing on the Starships going to the Cape? Could they do what they did for 37 and 38, or would they test the ones going to the Cape at Massey's before they get shipped out to the Cape? Parsing information. Yeah, Four Corners is owned by owned by the Navajo Nation, and the Ute Mountain Tribe, or is it Ute? I don't know. Navajo Nation is full management and operation control, maintaining the site as a tribal park through their Parks and Recreation Department. Yeah, that's the reason. Got it. Plymouth Rock, and Lord, I'm saying this as somebody that lives in Plymouth. It is. No. Matt, I'll answer your question in a second about Starships. Dudes, honestly, if you're going to Plymouth, the hell with going to the Rock. It's a rock in the ground with like a mini Lincoln Memorial around it. And it's not even the right rock. They don't know what rock it is. Where is it? Right there. They weren't sure. They only really made a monument to the Pilgrims like at least one generation after William Bradford founded the colony in 1630, right? So like it wasn't until like the 1700s they're like, oh man, this is where it all started. Maybe we should make a monument to it. So the people of Plymouth started asking around, hey, is there anybody that was alive when they found the rock? And they found the town drunk. They found the town drunk. It was just some derelict old hillbilly, right? And they were like, which rock was it? Come down here. Do you remember what rock they landed at? Like, and the guy was like, I think it's that one. Maybe that one over there. I don't know. Is it bingo time yet? Like, and they just picked a rock, they inscribed 1630 in it and made a monument around it in the 1920s. That's what happened. If you want to see something cool, go to the monument to the Pilgrims. That is way freaking cooler. It's up on a hill. It's behind the rock a little bit. Go here. That's badass. Yeah, go to the monument to the Pilgrims if you want to see something. That should be down where the rock is, and the rock should be in a ditch somewhere, if you really want my honest opinion. I'm saying that as somebody that's from here. Anyway, so Matt, you were talking about ship testing versus the Cape. So let's think about this for a second. So I'm sure if we talk through this logically, we can figure out what SpaceX's testing regime is going to be. So what do they have at the Cape that they don't have at Boca Chica? Like what does one have that the other doesn't, Matt? Think about it for a second. You have Massey's, right? Space, haha. You have Massey's at the Cape. Or at Boca Chica, right? You don't have Massey's at the Cape. So unless we see some kind of ship test stand start to materialize somewhere on 39A over here, right? It's unlikely that we would see ship testing being done at Cape Canaveral, right? Unless SpaceX has something cooked up down here where the Gigabay is being built for some test stands, there's no way to test ships here at this time. Like I said, that'll probably change in the future, especially when they get a Star Factory up, like start producing more starships here. The booster, however, what do you have here that you also have at Boca? You have a pad. You have an operational pad. What do they use the operational pads for? They use it for a static fire campaign, right? So if I had to guess, ship would be cryoed and static fired at Massey's and then shipped here. And the booster will be cryoed, engines installed, and then brought here for a static fire. Exactly. You got it. That's my guess. So, and we did talk about this. We touched base on this at the end of Space News yesterday. Would they even ship the ship with the engines? It depends. Skeleton, it is entirely dependent on how much infrastructure, how much Starship infrastructure gets built at the Cape. My guess is that they'll ship the ship with engines and the booster with engines as well. They have Florida Man too, yes, also. What did SpaceX end up putting on the barge in Boca Chica? Two Starship transport stools and a super heavy transport stool, Bdeen. And this is what we talked about this at the very end of Space News yesterday.
Discovery,
Dude, if they're
go
moving
and throttle up.
transport stools, that means they're ready to move starships to the Cape, or super heavy. That tells me, guys, like, I did give a conditional, like, hypothetical. A launch from the Cape is closer than you think. I'd say the end of summer. Like, hypothetically, I said, like, late August. I don't know that for sure. But look, the way I'm looking at this is that if you're moving transport stools now, they want to get this pad operational and they want to launch from it. Which, if you're moving the transport stools now at the kind of extrapolating the rate that SpaceX, does things, which is blindingly fast compared to most other aerospace companies, I would say a launch maybe August or September, if everything goes smoothly. If you're moving the stools now, you're planning for a launch campaign down there. This is 39A. Yep. I think it's also to test the connections on the tower. Well, yeah, Milge, of course. That would be part of your initial launch campaign to break in this new pad. They need a Gigabay in Texas soonest. They need more hardware. Yeah, megabays are your bottleneck at this point in time. I'm pretty convinced, Fluffy. How many starships are we expecting for the rest of 2026? Let me think. So, okay, look. They're doing some refurb to pad 2, to that pad at Boca Chica right now. There's a little bit of refurb here and there and a little bit of downtime. But honestly, Booster 20 Ship 40, they're like, I'd say like 85 to 90% good to go for like integrated operations. I've been guessing that Flight 13 is probably aiming for late June, early July. But early July is probably not going to happen because of the 4th of July for the 250th. SpaceX usually has a whole party down at Starbase to celebrate the 4th of July. So it's possible, it's most likely that it'll be second week of July, which, guys, is 4 weeks away, by the way. Yeah, that's 4 weeks away. We're already halfway through this year. So taking into account that rate, And there's probably additional downtime between Flight 12 and Flight 13 because some of the pad got a little screwed up. And they're going to put those mitigations in place to make sure that it doesn't get screwed up again. I would say at the very least, at least four more Starship launches. Maybe 3 more from Boca Chica and maybe 1 from the Cape. That's a very, very conservative estimate. That's like, it's probably more than that. It, like, barring no catastrophic disaster or whatever. You'd say maybe 6 plus 1. Okay. I'm not trying to push the new video, but some of these thoughts are touched on. I got you, Chano. Cool. That's good to know, dude. Yeah, that makes me want to watch it. I'd say 3 to 4, guys. But we also got to take into account that flight rate is most likely going to ramp up. So it's not, like I said, there's additional downtime because they need to evaluate the pad after the first flight of a V3 booster and ship. So yeah, the incremental time between missions is going to be a lot less in the future, especially as Star Factory really starts to ramp. How's the heat? It is 75 in here right now. 75 Fahrenheit. That is 24C. It's 68. It's not bad. It's okay. If you can hear buzzing in the background, I got fans moving air around in here, and that's the only thing that's really keeping us from boiling inside of this metal building. They need the Cape for fuel transfer. Yeah, exactly, Spoiled. They have to get the Cape operational sooner rather than later. That's my thoughts. Like, if you extrapolate, like, Starship missions, and you kind of... if you build backwards from Artemis 3, you need an HLS up there. And if an HLS is up there, what do you need? We talked about this yesterday. What do you need? You need the docking port to work. You need the life support systems to work. Right? There's a lot of stuff you need to get that all to come together. You need Starship orbital capacity, so that's at least one more. Well, we need one more flight. Let's start go both directions. So you need prop transfer demo for Artemis 3. Well, you don't necessarily, but I think SpaceX wants it. Let me put it that way. You need to be able to do in-flight refilling, right? So that's in-flight refilling. So prop, that's the same thing, dickhead. So that means you need 2 launch pads operational to demonstrate that. So that's at least 2 launches right there. You know, inaugural launch from the Cape, right? And then, because you need 2 pads to do the prop transfer demo. So that's 2 launches at least between now and the end of 2027, right? Now, if we work the other way, we know Flight 13 is going to be a repeat of Flight 12 because they didn't complete all test objectives. They got most of them. The real big thing here to unlock Starship orbital access is to be able to do a deorbit burn with your cryogenic engine with Raptors. They didn't do that because one of the vacuum Raptors had a leak and they shut it off. And that screwed up the trajectory big time. But Starship's cross-range capability was able to compensate, which is that's some pretty good flight data to have to understand the cross-range capability of your re-entry vehicle. That's why the space shuttle has big wings, so it could turn while going Mach 10 and find a runway. So you need to do that, right? You need to have the orbital flight to prove out the full capacity, right? And then, yeah, prop transfer demo from there. This is what I mean, guys. People are worried HLS isn't going to be done. 4 launches at bare minimum requirement to get an HLS up there is not a lot. That's not that SpaceX could do that by the end of the year. We just thought that they could. That's not that bad. Like, if it was anybody else, I'd be like, nah, that's probably not happening. But once again, SpaceX has shown that they can keep the flight rate with Starships during V2, like it's possible. And now they have even more throughput, and when the Gigabay gets done, they'll have even more throughput, right? That is at the very least, even if we wanted to add another one in there for a ship catch to prove that you can catch the ship, that's 5 launches between now and Artemis 3, which is, NASA says it's scheduled for 2027. It's going to be late 2027 if I had to guess, if I had to put my money on it, right? So 5 launches, 5 Starship launches. Dude, you can, with this time frame, you can afford to just not do like crazy throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. You can actually slow down just a little bit, right? And just take some extra time to do your due diligence and make sure each one of these missions goes off without a hitch. First tower module for Slick 37 is being stacked. Yep. You see the crane that's moving it? It's pretty intense. But HLS needs a habitation module. Do they have anything in that department that's close to testing? Jim, the real answer is I have no idea. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. That's the real answer. But also, it's the same. This is the same case with Blue Origin. Just because we don't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. The days of us being able to see everything that SpaceX is doing because they're building Starship rings out in a field in South Texas is gone. They have a gigantic factory. They have Star Factory. I'll bet you that there's an HLS PV in there somewhere. There absolutely is. Okay. Let's think about this. And I get it. People, some folks disagree, etc., etc. Ooh, updated picture. April 27th. Dude, look at that. That's going to be so sick, dude. Each one of these, so there's 2 transfer aisles right here on the Gigabay. And then each one of these kind of cavernous areas is a processing stool. This will allow them to have 10 ships in the production pipeline and 10 boosters in the production pipeline if they want to ramp. But, see this big old factory here? We have not seen all of this factory. We do not know what's going on over here. The only part that SpaceX really likes to show is this area right here. So their offices, where they do their webcasts from and stuff, and this kind of main production hallway that everybody sees. There's no way they're not working on HLS in here somewhere. See you in BF Labs this weekend. I'm not going to be here this weekend, but Sewer Reef is... Man. Hey, Ellisers. Gonna try workers and resources over the next couple of weeks. Make sure you give yourself some time. Not a single solar panel. There was, but then, it's kind of funny that they had solar panels out here powering a ground tracking station. And then they decided that solar power is not necessarily useful when you need industrial power capacity. So SpaceX in 2024 paid the power company to run industrial power out to Boca Chica. High voltage 3-phase. The transformer's somewhere around here. Let's see, where's the substation? I'm sure we could find it. Is that a go-kart track? Cool. I'm not exactly sure where the dang old substation is. It's here somewhere. Huh? No, those are condensers. That's for HVAC. We don't want that. Bro, I don't know what the field makes me kind of happy for some reason. What is this? There's still an F-14 AM? New target. Yeah, I'm not really 100% sure. Dude, they paved out in front of the Gigabay. That was not paved the last time I was there. There's got to be a power substation around here. But then again, maybe the substation is inside the factory. Maybe right there. I don't know. It's hard to say. Can I just fly a Chinook in there and take the F-14 instead of popping it? Solar power can't reliably keep the frequency of the electrical grid. I learned that the hard way during last year's blackout in Spain. Lava, I hate saying this to people because I know a lot of people really put a lot of eggs in the solar panel basket. It's a supplementary power generation technology. Solar panels only work really good if you have good battery tech to back it, right? Like, and I'm not dissing solar, but honestly, if you had an MPP hooked up to a battery backup, you'd never have to worry about power ever again. Like, you could, solar works with battery backup, right? With a bunch of power walls, which is fine. Dude, having electrical buffers, good idea. Very good idea. You could do that with a power plant. You could do that with any power plant. Am I wrong? So an MPP that has solar to supplement the battery bank, so you don't have to operate the MPP at a higher output. I was going to say the nuclear fuel could last longer over time. But yeah, it's the battery tech, dude. It's always been the battery tech. Solar and wind pumped into storage is also a solution. Yeah, Deadbringer, I'm not against solar. I really don't think wind power is a good idea. The amount of energy that is needed to make a wind turbine, it's a net power loss. It's not carbon zero. It's not even close. Solar panels, though, yes, absolutely. Solar panels used as a supplementary power generation system with nuclear backing it. You want to save the environment? That's a good way to do that. I mean, the French know. The U.S. Navy knows. I don't know if I'm just imagining it, but they test part of their life support system on Polaris Dawn. Well, Milge, every flight of Dragon is a test of the environmental control systems for Starship. Matt, what was your follow-up? I'm sorry, I forgot you had a follow-up. I lost that conversation, dude. Would you like to see separate static fire site for booster or static fires in the future? I think it would make a lot of sense after New Glenn's boom. No, more pads. More pads. Maddie, yeah, I'd want more pads for Starship. The straight reason is because if you want to build a static fire test stand that's powerful enough to withstand a full duration hot fire of like a super heavy booster. So we're talking firing 33 engines for 2 minutes 30 seconds. That would be more complicated than building the chopsticks in the launch pad. So because of that, just build more pads. More pads will solve this problem. And you don't have to go reinventing the wheel or launch pad in this particular regard. Want to become a billionaire, figure out a way to use spent rods for a second phase of power generation. How about we use the nuclear fuel containment vessels as a giant gravity battery? There's your second power generation.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Hard on, 76-month resub. Static fire stand for Super Heavy V3 would just be another pad. Bingo. Building a launch pad would be easier. And now, honestly, building a launch pad doesn't get you a full duration static fire with the Super Heavy. Building a launch pad means you don't need a full duration static fire. A much higher fidelity test to get a full duration burn, to get data on full duration burns for Super Heavy, is to just let the thing go and fly, right? Flight rate here. So, like, I'm not saying that this is a mistake, Maddie, but I see people, it's not a fault in logic either. Having a dedicated test stand maybe in the future might be a good idea. But if SpaceX wants to do that whole airline-like operations, well, airplanes don't have like a specialized runway for doing flight testing. No, most airplane factories are at an airport with a regular kind of garden variety runway. There are edge cases here like Edwards or, you know, Tonopah or whatever, or Moses Lake. We were looking at that the other day. Like, there are edge cases here, but for the most part, like when I was at DBF, we were at Beach Field in Wichita. Like, it's just a runway with an airplane factory attached to it. Right? Test as you fly, right? Like, just build another pad. Right? Like, just build another pad. Think about it like an airplane. Right? You wouldn't want like a, yeah, you test on the runway, and the runway is the same thing that it's the same GSE that you use to fly it, to take the plane off and fly it, right? Like, so obviously you don't want to lose one pad, so the real solution here is to lock in the design, and that's what they're doing at pad 2 at Boca. Lock in the design and then just build that a lot. Is that an expensive solution? Yes. Would losing a pad suck? Ask Blue Origin how much that sucks. But if SpaceX is trying to achieve that airline-like operation, you're going to need a lot of pads. Because, so think about it like this, guys. Like, you're not catching a Starship on a pad with a Super Heavy on top of it. All right? So if you want to do full reuse, really do full reuse using the kind of, you know, constraints, like the stakeholder expectations that SpaceX has, right? You know, you want the booster to go up and either, you know, like, well, get caught by the chopsticks, right? You're not going to have the chopsticks catch a Super Heavy, set it back down on the pad, and then try to catch a Starship on top of that. That's not going to be a thing. Starships will be caught on an operational pad, not necessarily a dedicated catch tower pad. I think that's an interim solution if they do that at all. But they will be caught on a pad without a Super Heavy on it. So that kind of gives you, it's kind of a logic problem, right? So I'll get into Factorio here in a second, and then we also got to fire up YouTube. So think about this. Say these diamonds here, right? They represent all of your different pads. Say you have 4 pads. Right? And in the span of, let's say, 5 days, this is, say the year, it's 2027, right? You want to launch this. So what do you have at your disposal here? Let's say you have 2 ships, 2 boosters. Right? So you have ship and booster here, right? And then you have ship and booster here.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Let's just say the ships are, triangles, right? And then the boosters are circles, right? It's a very, very nice model here. All right, so you have a booster here and a ship here and a booster here and a ship here. You want to do 4 launches in 5 days. Here's how you do it. Send this one. and then send this one right after it, right? So now your ships aren't there anymore, right? The boosters come back, the boosters land, right? So boosters come back and they land, and then you catch the ship on this pad and you catch another ship on this pad, right? Ships get caught, you can take it back to stack, take it back over here to stack, and then go again. What you could also do in this particular design, you could probably get away with 3 stacks if you really want to, right? And then just have a ship get caught, go off this pad, have another ship come down the next day, go off of this pad, and go back. The point is, you're always going to need a pad that doesn't have a super heavy on top of it. Now, once again, if you really want my honest to God opinion for how this is going to work in the future, I'm thinking a super heavy is assigned, more or less assigned to a pad. So like, let's say in the future you have booster 35 and then booster, 40, right? And then booster, let's say 38, right? They will be assigned to these pads. There's no real reason unless there's no real reason. So let's say pad 1, pad 2, pad 3. There's no real reason to take the booster off of the pad unless something goes wrong. So the booster will land, pre-flight check it, probably send some people out to the pad and, just make sure it's purged out, reprimed, ready to go for another mission. Right? And then in this regard, now that I'm thinking about it, you're probably going to have probably a 4th booster waiting in the wings. Let's just say that's booster 41 or something, right? You're probably going to have one of those waiting in the wings, and then just to be absolutely redundant here, I would have 2 extra ships on top of the 2 ships that are doing your flights. Or if you really want to do this, like if you really want to do it, take a page out of the Space Shuttle's book, you send ship, let's say that's ship 47, right? And then over here you have ship 50, right? And then over here you have ship, I don't know, 41. Like, it's a little too early for ship 41, but but you have those 3. What you could do is send them, right? And then down here behind my head, you have like 3 extra ships, redundancy. The starships come back down, right? They have to go back to payload integration to put more Starlink satellites on it, right? And then meanwhile, these ships are ready. You move them out to the pad. It's just going to be rotation. You're basically juggling starships at this point. And guys, like, once again, that right there, what I just showed you, the analogy was originally 2 ships just to show like pad cadence and stuff. But realistically here, with 6 ships and 4 boosters, if you're rotating the ship, so when the ship comes back in, Catch Tower grabs it, they put it on a transport stool, send it back to get more Starlink V3s put in it. Honestly, 6 ships, 4 boosters, you could achieve, like, I'd say bi-weekly. You could launch a Starship like every 2 weeks with just that. That'll work. Yeah, that is kind of a high, like, that's really quick for right now. But you got to think about it, with no reuse right now for V3 and one V3 flight under our belt, we're looking at an iteration or a rate of time between flights to the tune of maybe a month and a half. And that's with no reuse. That's the factory cranking these things out, right? Your flight rate will go up if you're rotating ships. So like, ship goes up, comes back down, gets caught, goes back to the gigabay. They put more satellites in the thing. They roll the thing back out. Say that, installing more satellites and doing a ship checkout takes like 2 weeks. With 6 ships, that basically means you could launch all the time. With 6 ships and 4 boosters, you could get in full reuse. You can get away with an insanely high flight cadence very, very quickly. And as Star Factory cranks out more ships, if you had 10 ships you could get it down to 2 days, like probably 2 launches a week. If you had 20 ships, you could launch every day. It's ships at this point. Just like Falcon 9, you know, you don't really see Falcon 9 first stages get built much anymore. They do. There's Booster 100 and Booster 1098 floating around. Like, they're in the test pipe somewhere. But for the most part, Hawthorne is cranking out second stages, almost 1 second stage a day. And they've been doing that for like the last 2 years almost. Think about that, building an entire Falcon 9 second stage. One Falcon 9 second stage a day. Well, every 2 days, technically. They launched 160 times last year out of 365 days. So basically a second stage every 2 days. And this is expending the second stage. If you can bring your second stage back, yeah, you're not going to need a big fleet to be able to achieve very fast reuse. Like I said, with six ships and 4 boosters, you could probably hit Falcon 9 cadence. At that particular point, your bottleneck really is how many times you can reuse the ships and how long it takes to put Starlink satellites in. How long does it take to do payload integration? Which do you think is heavier, a booster or a tanker ship when being caught? The booster, because it's got 33 engines attached to the back. Beltfed, we watched the last private SpaceX launch, the last Falcon 9 to launch with SpaceX as a private company. That's why I've been here for a little bit. And we just got into talking about airplanes and ships and stuff, because that's what I like doing. Yeah, you know, I'm sorry, like I kind of talked through that to show you guys that you're gonna need multiple pads, and if you're building a ton of pads to, like, that example that I just showed you with pretty reasonable, like, extrapolation of lead times and turnaround times on ships. With 4 pads and 6 ships and 4 boosters, you could get once a week easily with Starship. Easily. Like, that's not even a judgment call. At that point, it's how many times can you reuse the ships? Last thing about solar. Solar and batteries only wouldn't work either. You need something spinning to keep the inertia of the power grid. Yes, precisely. Which is why I believe that solar power is a supplementary power generation mechanism. In space, a little bit different, but yeah. No, YouTube. I was actually going to fire up YouTube here because I wanted to play Factorio before we go and do space news. Do they remake pads after an explosion? Usually that's what gets done for balls, yeah. Now here's one to cook the old noodle. What if all they have to do is bring it into a maintenance bay and swap out the tiles with new ones? Tire rotation and oil change essentially, then back in business. I think that SpaceX is trying to get to a point where they don't need to do anything with the tiles. Who knew? Making the rocket out of steel makes it so the tiles don't have to tank as much of the heat as they would on, like, an aluminum ship. Like, with the space shuttle, you do not want heat getting into the aluminum frame of the shuttle. That aluminum doesn't do good with you know, a lot of heat being put into it. It really doesn't do good. Stainless, on the other hand, you can put a lot of heat into stainless, but stainless has pretty decent heat flux. I mean, so does aluminum, but with stainless, because it's denser, like me, you can put more heat into it, and you don't necessarily have to worry about, like, the tiles, like, tanking all of the heat. If SpaceX builds a catch pad, could they make it be able to static fire a ship? Topical, I don't Yeah, I guess you could. I don't know why you would want to do this. Like, why put your test stand underneath a pad where ships are going to land? Why not just put a pad down there? If you just put a regular ship pad down there, yeah, I mean, yeah, I was what I'm kind of a big advocate for catch towers, but as an interim solution. Ideally, you don't want a catch tower, you just want to build another pad. The only way to beat full rapid reuse and high flight cadence is pads. At this point, the reason why is because Starship needs the launch pad for landing operations. Right? The space shuttle didn't necessarily have to worry about this problem because it was a one-way street. Shuttle comes in for a landing at the SLF, right? They tow it back to the OPF, get it ready for the next mission, put it in the VAB, stack it, roll it out to the pad, launch, right? It's kind of a one-way street of flight operations. With Starship, that's not necessarily the case. You have a Starship coming to land on a catch tower, right? It's a two-way street going back to the integration building. And then you got to go back out to the pad after you load up payload and then restack. So it's kind of you got a two-way street instead of a one-way street. So because of this, the only way to really make this work is if you have a single lane one-way road, right? Like with the space shuttle, that works. But with a two-way street, you need more throughput, right? You need 2 lanes with a two-way street instead of a single lane, right? And because of this, you need more pads. More pads is the only way to solve that two-way street problem because you have ships coming back from the pad, right? Instead of coming from a runway. So I don't like catch towers are an interim solution to that problem, but to demonstrate high flight cadence, like I said, 4 pads would do you right. And that was just in my stupid little analogy. SpaceX they're going to have 2 pads operational at Boca, 1 at 39A, and then 2 more at Slick 37. That's 4 pads that's 5 pads. 4 pads to do what I said, and then a spare just in case. My personal theory, 37 is going to see a lot of Starship launches, and so is Boca Chica. Boca Chica is going to have test flights and Starship launches. And 39A, SpaceX is really teeing that pad up right now for HLS. They're teeing it up for HLS. And my guess would be that through the latter half of this decade, so for the next 5 years, 39A probably won't be doing as much ship catching unless it absolutely has to, because SpaceX isn't going to risk the pad that they're going to launch HLS from to get people back to the moon, right? What are the odds that Slick 6 becomes a Starship pad? All we've seen with Slick 6 is tentative plans to build a Falcon 9 pad there, but that's honestly the last thing I heard about anything that had to do with Slick 6. Don't forget Louisiana's pad in the future. I didn't forget it, I just don't... Belt-fed, the whole purpose of the exercise here is to demonstrate that with 4 pads, you can achieve a weekly flight cadence with Starship. More pads are just going to increase that cadence, like if you had 8 pads, 12 ships, 8 boosters, yeah, that Falcon 9 cadence, easily Falcon 9 cadence. And you got to remember, it's like, well, if you think about it relatively, right, you're going to think like, oh, well, Starship achieving Falcon 9 flight cadence isn't exactly what they want, blah, 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 blah. Like, you got to remember that this is a super heavy launch vehicle that can do 100 tons every time. A weekly flight cadence, so 1 time a week in the near future, with 100 tons a shot is unbelievable payload capacity. You could, with that flight cadence, you could build something like the ISS probably in a couple of months. Like, That's what the shuttle was supposed to do. And that's just the beginning, right? Like you could have 8 boosters, and if you throw more ships at the problem, right? Say you had 32 ships. Your bottleneck at this point is payload integration and fuel. That's it. Like, you have the two-way street, the proverbial two-way street that I was telling you guys about. Wasn't Slick 6 meant to be a Falcon Heavy pad for DoD applications? Yeah, the last I saw, SpaceX was modifying this to, they're gonna basically, so Slick 6 has a bidirectional flame diverter, right? There's a flame duct over here and a flame duct over here, and there's a split. It goes out either side. The reason why is because this was designed for the shuttle SRBs, because the space shuttle was supposed to launch from this pad. So left SRB, right SRB, and you could see where the shuttle engine exhaust duct was. They filled it in with concrete in the 90s. It's a tunnel. It's a tunnel that's like as big as a cathedral that goes this way, and they filled it all in with concrete, and then they used that area to put the erector in for Delta 4. That's what that thing is. SpaceX, what they would want to do, at least this is their tentative plans, fill in this duct with concrete and then leave a spot for the hydraulics for the transporter erector, demolish the fixed service structure and swing arms from Delta, and have Falcon Heavy go sideways off this pad. So the center core would be like right here, and then left booster and right booster would be there. It would launch sideways comparatively to Delta 4 and the space shuttle. The space shuttle was supposed to be SRB, external tank, SRB, shuttle. Delta 4 is CBC left, CBC center, and CBC right. Falcon Heavy would go this way. But that's ULA's site. No, ULA gave up the lease to it after the last Delta 4 launch, which was NROL 44, I think. SpaceX has the lease on the pad, Cannon. They use, so this over here is the solid rocket motor processing facility that was left over from when they wanted to do shuttle operations here. That obviously didn't happen. You could see it's connected to the rail line where they were going to bring the SRB train in, right? And you could see there's an SRB segment sized door right there. So rotating processing facility for SRB casings, right? And then they would have rolled the SRBs out on carts and brought them up to the pad and stacked them over here. SpaceX uses this for Falcon 9 refurbishment. That's their refurbishment hangar for Falcon 9 West Coast operations. What's my source? I know people that work there. And SpaceX has disclosed this information publicly. Like, yeah. You know. Yeah, I actually know ex-viewers that work there. Well, not ex-viewers, they still watch. They used to, but they still do. But yeah, there are people that watch the stream that work there now, that makes me feel really good. All right, I'm not saying that's an ego boost, but it's a little bit of an ego boost. I'm sorry, I'm not, like, I gotta give myself some credit. Yeah, I know a good bit of people that work Falcon 9 West Coast operations from the stream, which is weird to think about, but hey. Whatever. Hey, Dio, what's up? Finally, someone has learned how to launch all sorts of stuff into space without damaging the launch pad. We understand. Enough of this ranting. What? Ranting? This isn't even close to me ranting, dude. What are you talking about? All right. I guess you don't want to hear what I have to say about launch pads anymore, so I guess I'll stop. Let's play Factorio, dude. Dude, you don't even know. You've never even seen me rant, dude. I usually rant late at night when I'm tired. There's an ex-NSF guy that still should be at Bandy. Yeah, him too. Well, Leon. Yep, couple of them. Yeah, the people that I know are not necessarily those people. Yeah, I know, dude. I know a lot of people that work West Coast Falcon 9 operations. Dude, I know a lot of people that work everywhere at this point, dude. I've been doing this for 15 years. There are viewers that work for SpaceX and Blue Origin now that started watching me when they were in elementary school. I've been coming to the same party for the last 15 years, and that is in no way sad. Dude, I'm not saying I have eyes and ears everywhere, but because like that implies that people tell me what's going on and I get insider information. And I actually, if one of my viewers gets a job in the industry and they tell me about it, I usually send them a DM and say, don't tell me anything. I don't want to know. I like guessing. And I know like that's not necessarily good journalism. I like the reason why I guess about like I just showed you those PadCon ops, right? I put that information out there as a way to explain how SpaceX is going to tackle the problems that they are going to face over the next 5 years with Starship bottlenecks, right? I put that information out there to kind of stand the test of time, to see if I'm right or not. I really don't like it when people tell me the answers of what's going on in the industry. I think that makes me a worse analyst when it comes to what the aerospace industry is doing. I put my own knowledge to the test, and I do that like it's very rare that you ever hear me say like, oh, well, I have a source. You know, my source says this, and then I drop some crazy insider information. I don't do that. I don't do that not because necessarily like that's a bad thing or something. Like if that's how you want to report the news in the aerospace industry, that's fine. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't call myself a spaceflight journalist so much as a spaceflight analyst. Like kind of what like the space engineer does on X, or Zach, what CSI Starbase does on his YouTube channel. I like putting my knowledge to the test, putting it out there, and then figuring out how accurate I was in my analysis, right? Call it iterative analysis testing. Because, like I said, if I'm right, that means I was thinking about it how SpaceX thinks about it, or thinking about it how Blue Origin thinks about it, you know, which I still don't understand, by the way. What Blue's trying to do doesn't make any sense in my head, but so yeah, if I have friends all over the place in the industry, literally every company, like any company that you could think of. Actually, there are some where I don't know anybody there, but all the big ones, yeah. I know people that work there. I work in the aerospace industry. Of course I know people that work there. But I wouldn't, and a lot of good friends too. But I tell them, like, I don't want, like with viewers, especially viewers that have been watching me for a long period of time, I do not fish for information. One, because you're honestly putting them in a compromising position if you do. Because if they leak information and I say it on stream, somebody will find out. Somebody will connect the dots. That's how this industry works. I don't want to put viewers' jobs at stake. And the other thing is, yeah, I want to be a better analyst. I don't want to know. Don't tell me. I want to figure it out for myself, and I want to see how accurate I am. We have top men. Top men. So you don't want to be a journalist. Analyst would probably be a better way to say it. I'm not interested in having a scoop or knowing insider information, etc., etc. First of all, I kind of don't like people that gatekeep info like that. Especially info that they weren't privileged to have in the first place. I don't like that. I don't like that dichotomy. I think that's a really bad way to do business. Like, I don't like to conduct myself like that. And the other thing is, like, dude, the viewers that have been watching me for a long time, like, I don't want the relationship I have with long-term viewers that work in the industry to turn into you just you feeding me information and me having a source that I can make money off of. That's frankly disgusting, and it's a slap in the face to anybody that's been watching this stream for over 10 years. I wouldn't do that. What's your opinion on PLD Space? I think they were cooking with Mira 1. I think Mira 5 is very promising, Canton. I'm wondering about what they're doing launchpad-wise with Mira 5, but we'll get updates as we go. But yeah, that's how I conduct myself. That's how I do business. I have a code of ethics and I don't break it for anything. Period. Full stop. Live by the code, man. You know what the code is? Don't be an asshole. It's a pretty good rule to live by. Rocket 4 picks 2. We can talk more about that when we do a Space News segment, and I'd say we'll do Space News at 5. I'm going to crank up Factorio here. So let me bring up the title card. I'll change the stream category up, and then we'll fire up YouTube. Broken Daily. I mean, hi. Something like that, caveman.
You know, all I have in this world is my balls, and I don't break them for nobody, Frank!
All right. I'll be right back. Factorio time. Let's roll.